Hello, my name is Rüdiger Wischenbart. I'm a consultant based in Vienna in Austria, and I'm delighted to talk to you in Guadalajara at the largest Spanish language meeting of the book business about trends that are relevant for all of us. I have prepared a few slides that will hopefully make it easier to illustrate a little bit what I prepared for you in terms of argumentation. And here is my book: How Consolidation, New Business Models, and Platforms Reshape the Global Business of Books. Why is the good old business of books transforming before our eyes, and we often hardly notice the shifts? I'm directly connecting with a good friend who, unfortunately, sadly, passed away just a week ago, Mike Schatzkin, one of the sharpest minds of the international book business, who wrote just a year ago the book publishing business, in which I have spent my working life since the early 1960s, is disappearing. What are the drivers of that change, I want to ask? How big is the impact of that shift? Why is this important? Just a couple of months ago, I released, as every year, a global ranking of the 50 leading publishing companies worldwide. And one of the findings every year that strikes me time and again is the top 10 of the companies, the 10 largest, account for more than half of all the revenue generated by these 50 large companies. The consolidation is already very strong, and it's getting ever stronger. And in a long-term perspective, we see the growth in the industry does not happen across the board, but among the largest companies, and here primarily not as growth by expanding markets, but by consolidations. One company buying the other one. And when we take a closer look, first of all, we see really a very consistent increase in that top segment. That is the red line, which you see. But also we realize that the drivers of really big business in publishing are not the consumer book publishing companies like Penguin Random House or Hachette or HarperCollins. It's academic, scientific publishers, professional publishers, and to a certain degree, the largest educational publishers. So why is this relevant? Because when you take another angle, again in the long-term perspective, and that is how many books get across the shop to the audience, to the consumers. In the case of Germany, a very stable market, we see for the decade from 2011 to 2020 that the number of books is declining steadily year after year after year. And that means the reach of the book business is shrinking. And even for revenue, we would think at first the market is flat because the turnover generated by German publishers is roughly the same year after year after year. But if, of course, we look at inflation, we see that the real value of that industry is declining, and even the pandemic year of 2020 didn't really have a major impact reshaping that picture. But at the same time, there are some authors, and I would say really this is a totally new type of authors, mostly women, mostly in the English language, but not only, like Colleen Hoover or Rebecca Yarros, who really dominate the top charts. They are the ones defining whether their publishers have a successful year or a so-la-la year. And it is these authors who are in a totally different position than the old traditional authors, because by their success, they have control. They use publishers just as service providers, like any other service provider, like a printer, like a consultancy company. They are in control about what they are doing. They are shaping the trends. And if we look at Colleen Hoover, we know, of course, what a powerful direct relationship she has to her audiences. Publishers have lost much of their role as a gatekeeping controller. It's the authors, and that shift is really very, very strong. And we see that that coincides with a very strong growth area among non-traditional authoring models. Non-traditional, that is self-publishing, that is books from normal publishers turned into audiobooks, consumed not by a channel controlled by the publisher, but for instance, at Spotify, a music portal where suddenly audiobooks, often also given to them directly by authors and not through a publisher, play an increasingly big role. Platforms are also platforms where the authors create their works, and by creating, they already build an audience which they own and nobody else. Unfortunately, to understand these platforms, like Amazon, we get very, very few solid financial data. Most of this is happening in a very obscure space that me as a consultant, I have not really good opportunities to measure it seriously. There is one exception. Amazon releases every month the value, the amount of money that they pay out to small presses and authors for their participation in subscription programs of Amazon. So again, non-traditional ways to connect a work and the author with the audience. Subscriptions are exactly the opposite of the one copy at a time model of selling in a bookshop. And here we see in these self-publishing payouts of Amazon a continuous growth, which is exactly the opposite to the continuous decline in the same period of time for overall books that go to readers. So that is illustrating that shift. And the dramatic result is that today, when we look at a realistic representation of the book industry, which includes these non-traditional players like Amazon, but not only, we see they have increased to a level that brings them almost on par, or brings them on par with the largest traditional publishing companies like Penguin Random House, Hachette, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, or in the Spanish language, Planeta, of course. But this is not only, the non-traditionals are not only Amazon. It's Wattpad, a writer's platform that acquired webtoons with these graphic novels. It's the Tonys, a German-based operation producing audiobooks for small children, where the children are in control of what they are listening to. Or Storytel, which is a very strong driving force behind subscription in audiobooks. And the same exists also in China, where we have a giant based in Shanghai, Yuan, China Literature, making 1 billion euros or US dollars in revenue every year just by providing an authoring platform and promoting and distributing the digital versions of these books to the Chinese audience by the millions. If I could raise your interest in these questions, I have 2 reports that we recently published that might deliver you much more detail and much more in-depth view and understanding of these trends. One is the Global 50 Publishing Ranking 2024. The other one about the non-traditional models is Publishing Beyond Publishers. Both are to be found at my website, wischenbart.com/markets-reports. And if you have questions, feel free to write me an email. I'm very pleased to receive your correspondence and in case try to come up with a response to any questions that you may have. That is what I wanted to tell and to discuss with you. And with that, I wish you a wonderful fair in Guadalajara over the next few days with good conversations, with good encounters, and of course, with many good surprises. Thank you very much.